And Heather Ford. This is National 9 News.
Face legal action with teachers refusing to teach an expelled student reinstated by the Education Department. The Year 12 boy was expelled last month for exposing his buttocks to a teacher, but reinstated by the department after an appeal.
And the teachers have met and have asked for a directive not to instruct the student, and that's exactly what has happened.
The bottom line, according to the Education Department, is that Aspley High may have exposed themselves to possible legal action. The case is set to be decided in the Industrial Relations Commission.
Teachers at a Brisbane high school have ignored a government order to take back a student expelled for exposing his buttocks. The 17-year-old returned to Aspley High this morning, but spent his time isolated from normal classes. Staff say they won't teach the Year 12 student, although senior exams are only a week away.
Quite amazing that the Department of Education sees fit, centrally, to actually override a decision that's made at the school level with the support of the community.
The Education Department said the student had an unblemished record until he allegedly exposed himself to a female teacher and other students at a netball game. The standoff is headed for the Industrial Commission.
A gang of teenagers.
Aspley State High School has a reputation for being strict, so parents weren't surprised to hear that a Year 12 student had been expelled for exposing his rear to the gaze of a teacher and students on a school netball court. But the student was back at school today after lawyers convinced the Education Department that expulsion was excessive punishment. The teachers disagree and have refused to teach the student, who will spend his final weeks at school studying alone.
I think that the bottom line here, though, that it's very important is that the school and the community have made a decision about the behaviour of a student. They have put in place that decision, and then Central Office sees fit to overturn that.
While views differ as to the appropriateness of the youth's punishment, few would have imagined the matter escalating to become the source of a bitter wrangle between the union and the state government. What started as a bun fight is now looming as an industrial dispute. In a one-page statement, Director-General of Education Frank Peach would only say that the original exclusion had been reviewed, and as a result, the exclusion had been varied. The Education Department is now seeking an urgent hearing in the Industrial Commission to resolve the matter. Tom Hilston, 7 Nightly News.
Deal and Jeff Mullins. Tonight, the crash of '97. Billions wiped off the Australian stock market.
Shark attack. 2 men survive a white pointer strike off a Perth beach.
One terrific hit and one big bite, and didn't like the taste and moved away.
And the Lord Mayor slams the site chosen for a super stadium.
This is a joke and a farce.
Also, the row over an expelled high school boy goes to court.
But first tonight, more than...
The dispute over a Year 12 student at Aspley High School remains unresolved. The 17-year-old was expelled 5 weeks ago for baring his buttocks during a physical education class. The State Industrial Commission has directed the union and the Education Department to negotiate on new recommendations.
The bun fight moved from the classroom to the Commission this afternoon. Last week, the government ordered the expelled boy be reinstated after an appeal, but teachers have refused to deal with him. Instead, the 17-year-old is studying alone in a separate room. The Teachers' Union says the teenager's mother pressured Education Minister Bob Quinn to re-enrol the student.
The mother of this child works at Parliament House, and I understand she's been very instrumental in lobbying senior politicians to interfere in this case.
A claim vehemently denied by the minister.
My part has been nil. I've not interfered in the process whatsoever.
And Ian Mackey denies he's been influenced by the fact his sister is the boy's teacher, saying this case is an acid test of the government's new behaviour in schools laws.
The minister's been going around the state with a hair shirt on, playing the tough guy about behaviour management, and the very first time the acid test comes on him, he goes to water, he wimps out, and it's just not good enough.
I'm not wimping out on anything.
The boy's mother says her son is being treated like a criminal, but the Teachers' Union says mooning should not be tolerated.
We'll have lads dropping their pants all over the place.
Kristen Devitt, 10 News.
Between a Brisbane school and a student remains unresolved despite a hearing today in the Industrial Relations Commission. The 17-year-old was expelled by Aspley State High for exposing his buttocks at a netball game. The Education Department overturned that decision after the boy's parents appealed. But teachers have refused to let him into classes, making him sit alone in a room. The Teachers' Union said today's hearing was favourable.
We don't stand back from the right of secondary schools and their school communities to set standards of behaviour that will be enforced.
Mr Mackey has denied a conflict of interest. It was his sister who witnessed the teenagers' prank. The Commission made a number of confidential recommendations which the teachers will now consider.
High school will continue their ban on teaching a 17-year-old who bared his bottom to staff and classmates. The Education Department overturned the school's decision to expel the student. But today, a 3-hour Industrial Commission hearing between the department and the Teachers' Union failed to resolve the row.
It's a typical state school in Brisbane's northern suburbs, but Aspley High School is now at the centre of a row after a Year 12 student dropped his pants in front of his teacher and classmates.
If it occurred in the mall, you'd be arrested. If it occurred at work, you'd be sacked.
The boy was expelled and told to attend another school nearby. His parents appealed and the Education Department overturned the decision. But now, under a union directive, Aspley teachers are refusing to give the boy lessons.
And what he needed to do was get his overexposed backside with his cap in his hand to the other school so that he could complete his senior studies.
The school won't comment on the case. Each year, Queensland state schools hand out around 13,000 suspensions and 700 exclusions. But in this case, the Education Minister, Bob Quinn, claims the union has grossly overreacted.
It is a regrettable episode. I would have thought the union would have taken a more responsible attitude to it.
Ian Mackey denies being influenced because the teacher involved is his sister. And the government denies any political interference as the boy's mother works at Parliament House.
My part has been nil. I've not interfered in the process whatsoever.
A 3-hour hearing before the Industrial Commission today failed to resolve the case. The department and the union will continue talks tomorrow. Alison Smith, ABC News.
Tonight,
Aspley State High School had refused to instruct the 17-year-old after he allegedly exposed his bottom during class. The school expelled him, but the Education Department ordered his re-enrolment. Today, the union and government officials discussed the confidential recommendations made by the Industrial Commission, and at 3 o'clock this afternoon, Aspley teachers gathered at a union meeting to consider their options. While the teaching staff are united on this case, the rest of the school community here at Aspley are clearly divided.
He doesn't have a right to do it, and he should suffer the consequences.
I think they probably should have made the punishment fit the crime rather than expelling him.
I support the teachers on this.
Yeah.
I don't think teachers have to put up with that kind of thing.
That's easily solved, something like that, but the drug scene is more of a problem in schools as far as I'm concerned.
A short time ago, the teachers announced they've agreed to allow the student back into the classroom.
The teachers at this school are satisfied that if a similar situation occurred again, that the school would make the same decision.
Put one school and a student through this sort of trauma for the best part of a week and now threatening to do it in other instances across the state really says how irresponsible the union and Mr Mackey really are.
Kristen Devitt, 10 News.
Bottom is to be allowed back into classes at Aspley High. His teachers relented today at a meeting after school.
This afternoon school might have been out at Aspley, but its teachers were in. A meeting with their union behind closed doors, the vote was unanimous.
In the interest of getting on with the job, and given that they're very satisfied with the outcomes of the Commission hearing, they're prepared to lift the directive such that the student can get back to school and complete Year 12.
The 17-year-old had spent 3 days in isolation, forced to sit alone in a room because teachers had refused to include him in lessons. At issue, the Education Department's decision to overturn the school's expulsion of the student for exposing his buttocks at a netball game 6 weeks ago. The prank was witnessed by the Sister of Teachers Union President Ian Mackey, an outspoken critic of allowing the teenager's return. Education Minister Bob Quinn has accused the union of double standards.
Earlier on, Mr Mackey was complaining that teachers who commit similar sorts of offences, in fact, ought to be allowed to teach in classrooms. He's not prepared to admit a child who makes a similar sort of mistake.
Michael Lyons, National 9 News.
On the way,
for allegedly burying his backside to a female teacher is expected to be back in class tomorrow. Teachers have backed down on their refusal to teach him after a series of talks.
Port on Leal and Jeff Mullins.